The Galactic Academy stood tall and proud, its shimmering towers reaching towards the purple sky of planet Xeno 7. It was the first day of the new academic year, and students from all corners of the galaxy poured through its grand entrance. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors mixed together in a lively crowd. Some floated, others crawled, and many walked on various numbers of legs. Among this diverse group, a small cluster of bipedal creatures stood out. They looked around with wide eyes, taking in the sights of their new school. These were the humans, newcomers to the galactic community, and a source of great curiosity for many. Sarah Chen, a young woman from Earth, clutched her datapad tightly. She felt both excited and nervous as she made her way through the crowded halls. The Academy's layout confused her, with its twisting corridors and gravity-defying architecture. She bumped into a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms. "Sorry," Sarah said quickly, stepping back. The alien blinked its 3 eyes and waved a hand dismissively. "No harm done, little Earthling. Are you lost?" Sarah nodded, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Yes, I'm looking for classroom 372B. It's for introductory xenobiology." The alien's mouthparts twitched in what Sarah guessed was a smile. "Ah, a fine choice. I'm headed there myself. Follow me." As they walked, Sarah learned that her new friend was named Zorkthal, a third-year student from the gas giant Jublex. They chatted about their home planets, with Zorkthal expressing amazement at Earth's varied environments. "You have solid ground and liquid oceans. Fascinating," Zorkthal exclaimed. They arrived at the classroom, a large, circular room with tiered seating. Students of various species were already settling in. Sarah thanked Zorkthal and found a seat next to another human, a young man named Michael. "Can you believe this place?" Michael whispered, his eyes shining with excitement. "I've never seen so many different aliens in one room." Sarah nodded in agreement, still taking it all in. The room quieted as the instructor entered. He was a tall, slender being with iridescent scales and large, intelligent eyes. He moved to the center of the room and began to speak, his voice clear and melodious. "Welcome, students, to Introductory Xenobiology. I am Professor Zixal. In this class, we will explore the vast diversity of life forms across our galaxy." As Professor Zixal spoke, holographic images appeared around the room, showing strange and wonderful creatures from various planets. Sarah and Michael exchanged excited glances. This was why they had come to the Galactic Academy, to learn about the wonders of the universe. The professor continued, "This year, we are honored to have students from Earth joining us for the first time. Humans, please raise your hands." Sarah, Michael, and 3 other humans in the room hesitantly raised their hands. All eyes turned to look at them with curiosity. "Excellent," Professor Zixal said. "I look forward to learning more about your species. Now let's begin with the basics of carbon-based life forms." As the lesson progressed, Sarah found herself fascinated by the variety of life in the galaxy. She learned about creatures that could survive in the vacuum of space, beings made entirely of energy, and plants that could communicate across light years. During a break in the lesson, a small furry alien with large ears approached Sarah. "Hi, I'm Pip," it squeaked. "I've never met a human before. Is it true that you only have 2 arms?" Sarah laughed and showed Pip her arms. "Yes, just 2. But we manage pretty well with them." Pip looked impressed. "Amazing. And you live on a planet with such strong gravity. It must be like carrying rocks all the time." Before Sarah could reply, another alien joined the conversation. This one was tall and spindly, with a head that looked like a glowing orb. "I heard humans need to shut down their consciousness for hours every day. Is that true?" "You mean sleep?" Sarah asked. "Yes, we usually sleep for about 8 hours a day." The aliens murmured in amazement. More students gathered around, peppering the humans with questions about Earth and their biology. From his position at the front of the class, Professor Zixal observed the interactions with great interest. He had studied reports about Earth, but seeing the humans in person was different. There was something about them, a spark of adaptability and resilience, that intrigued him. As the class resumed, the professor made a mental note to keep a close eye on the human students. He had a feeling they might surprise everyone, including themselves. The lesson continued, covering topics from microscopic organisms to planet-sized beings. Sarah's head spun with all the new information, but she loved every minute of it. This was more amazing than she had ever imagined. As the class ended, Professor Zixal made an announcement. Next week, we will begin a special project. It will test various abilities across different species. Prepare yourselves for some interesting challenges. The students buzzed with excitement as they left the classroom. Sarah caught up with Michael in the hallway. "What do you think the professor meant by interesting challenges?" she asked. Michael shrugged. "No idea, but I can't wait to find out. This place is incredible." As they walked to their next class, Sarah couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. The Galactic Academy was opening up a whole new universe of possibilities. She knew the challenges ahead would be tough, but she was determined to prove that humans belonged here among the stars. Little did Sarah, Michael, or any of the other students know that the upcoming test would reveal secrets about their species that would shake the very foundations of galactic society. The true nature of Earth as a death world and the extraordinary abilities of its inhabitants were about to come to light, changing everything forever. The mysterious test. A week had passed since the first day at the Galactic Academy. Sarah Chen stood nervously outside classroom 372B, waiting for the door to open. Around her, alien students of various species chatted excitedly about the upcoming test. "I heard it's going to test our natural abilities," a jellyfish-like being floating nearby said, its tentacles waving gently. A rock-skinned creature next to it rumbled. "Well, I hope there's a strength component. We Granitians will crush that part." Sarah felt a tap on her shoulder and turned to see Michael, her fellow human classmate. "Ready for this?" he asked, trying to sound confident but looking just as nervous as she felt. Before Sarah could answer, the classroom doors slid open with a soft hiss. The students filed in, finding their seats quickly. Professor Zixal stood at the center of the room, his scaled skin shimmering under the lights. "Welcome, students," the professor began, his voice filled with excitement. "Today, we begin our special project, a comprehensive test of various skills and abilities across different species." A holographic display appeared above him, showing a series of strange symbols and diagrams. "This test will challenge you in ways you might not expect. It is designed to push the limits of your species' natural talents." Sarah and Michael exchanged worried glances. What kind of test could possibly be fair for so many different types of beings? Professor Zixal continued. "The test has several parts, each focusing on a different set of skills. We will start with physical challenges, move on to mental exercises, and finish with problem-solving scenarios." The room buzzed with a mix of excitement and anxiety. Many alien students looked confident, sure that their species' unique traits would give them an advantage. "Now," the professor said, pressing a button on his datapad, "let's begin with the physical challenges." Suddenly, the floor of the classroom began to shift and change. Sections rose and fell, creating an obstacle course that looked both challenging and dangerous. Sarah's heart raced as she saw deep pits, narrow beams, and what looked like some kind of sticky substance covering parts of the course. "Your first task," Professor Zixal announced, "is to navigate this obstacle course as quickly as possible. You may use any natural abilities your species possesses, but no technological aids are allowed." The jellyfish-like being Sarah had seen earlier floated forward confidently. "This will be easy for us Floatarians," it said, starting to drift over the obstacles. But as it passed over the sticky substance, its gelatinous body began to lose shape, slowing it down considerably. "Oh no," it gurgled, struggling to reform. Next, the Granitian stepped up, its rocky body easily smashing through some of the barriers. However, when it came to the narrow beams, its bulky form made balancing nearly impossible. Sarah watched as student after student attempted the course, each facing unexpected difficulties. Some excelled in certain areas but struggled in others. Finally, it was Sarah's turn. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the course. To her surprise, she found that her human body was surprisingly well suited for the challenges. Her hands and feet could grip surfaces well, allowing her to climb and balance. Her flexible body let her squeeze through tight spots that larger aliens couldn't manage. As Sarah neared the end of the course, she realized she was making good time. She leaped over the final pit and touched the finish line, breathing hard but feeling the surge of accomplishment. The room fell silent. Alien students stared at her in shock. Even Professor Zixal looked surprised, quickly tapping notes into his datapad. Michael went next, performing similarly well. When all students had finished, the results showed that the humans had some of the best times in the class. Fascinating, Professor Zixal murmured. Let's move on to the mental exercises. The obstacle course disappeared, replaced by individual consoles for each student. This section will test your species' cognitive abilities, the professor explained. Pattern recognition, problem solving, and memory recall will all be evaluated. Sarah felt more confident now. She had always been good at puzzles and brain teasers back on Earth. As the test began, she found herself racing through problems that seemed to stump some of her alien classmates. One challenge involved predicting the movement patterns of a swarm of particles. Sarah's human brain, evolved to track prey and predict trajectories, handled it with ease. Another test required quick adaptation to changing rules, something humans excelled at due to Earth's rapidly changing environments. Once again, when the results were displayed, the humans were among the top performers. The alien students began to whisper among themselves, casting curious and somewhat wary glances at Sarah and the other humans. Professor Zixal's eyes gleamed with intense interest. Most unexpected, he said softly. Now for the final part, problem-solving scenarios. The room transformed once more, this time into a holographic simulation of various environments. You will face survival situations typical to different planets, the professor explained. Your goal is to find solutions using the resources available. The first scenario placed Sarah in a simulated dense jungle. She had to find food, water, and shelter while avoiding dangerous wildlife. Her human instincts kicked in, helping her identify safe plants, locate water sources, and create simple tools for defense. Other scenarios included harsh desert planets, freezing ice worlds, and even low-gravity environments. To everyone's amazement, the humans consistently found creative solutions, often outperforming species native to similar environments. As the test concluded, the room was filled with a mix of awe and confusion. The alien students couldn't understand how the seemingly unremarkable humans had performed so well across such a wide range of challenges. Professor Zixal stepped forward, his voice filled with excitement. Class, we have witnessed something extraordinary today. It seems our human students possess a remarkable range of abilities that we did not anticipate. He turned to Sarah and the other humans. Your performance raises many questions about your species and your home planet. I believe we may need to reevaluate our understanding of Earth and its inhabitants. As the students filed out of the classroom, still buzzing with excitement and confusion, Sarah overheard snippets of conversation. How did they do that? They look so ordinary. I've never seen anyone adapt so quickly to different environments. Do you think it has something to do with their planet? What kind of world produces beings like that? Sarah caught Michael's eye, and they shared a look of wonder and slight apprehension. They had come to the Galactic Academy to learn about the universe, but it seemed they had unexpectedly taught the universe something about humans instead. As they walked down the corridor, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The test had revealed abilities they didn't know they had, And now the whole galaxy would be watching to see what else humans could do. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a journey that would reshape galactic society and humanity's place in it. Surprising results. The day after the mysterious test, the Galactic Academy was buzzing with excitement. Students of all species gathered in small groups, whispering and gesturing animatedly. At the center of all this attention were the human students, who found themselves the subject of curious stares and endless questions. Sarah Chen walked down the corridor, feeling uncomfortable with all the attention. Aliens she had never spoken to before now approached her, eager to learn more about humans and Earth. "Is it true that your planet has areas covered in frozen water?" a reptilian student asked, its forked tongue flicking out in excitement. "You mean snow and ice?" "Yes, we have those in some places," Sarah replied, still amazed at how ordinary things from Earth seemed incredible to her alien classmates. As she entered the classroom, Sarah noticed that Professor Zixal was already there, deep in conversation with several other instructors. They all turned to look at her as she entered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and something that looked almost like concern. Once all the students had taken their seats, Professor Zixal moved to the center of the room. His scales seemed to shimmer more intensely than usual, a sign of strong emotion in his species. "Students," he began, his voice filled with barely contained excitement, "the results of yesterday's test have been most illuminating. In fact, they are so extraordinary that we've decided to share them with the entire Academy." A large holographic display appeared above him, showing charts and graphs that Sarah didn't fully understand. But she could see that in almost every category, the human students were at or near the top. "As you can see," Professor Zixal continued, "our human students have demonstrated abilities far beyond what we initially expected. Their physical prowess, mental acuity, and problem-solving skills are, well, quite frankly, they're off the charts." The room erupted in murmurs and exclamations. Sarah felt her face grow hot as her alien classmates turned to stare at her and the other humans. Professor Zixal raised a hand for silence. "But what's truly fascinating is not just their high scores, but the incredible range of their abilities. Most species excel in one or two areas, but humans seem to be adaptable to an extent we've never seen before." He turned to face the human students directly. "We believe this may be due to the unique conditions on your home planet, Earth. Tell me, is it true that your world has such diverse environments? Deserts, oceans, frozen tundras, dense forests, all on one planet?" Michael, sitting a few seats away from Sarah, nodded. "Yes, that's right. Earth has all kinds of different climates and landscapes." The professor's eyes widened. "Extraordinary, and you can survive in all these environments." "Well, we need special gear for some extreme places," Sarah explained, "but humans live all over our planet." This revelation seemed to stun the alien students. A Floatarian student waved its tentacles in agitation. "But how is that possible? Our species can only survive in our gas-filled oceans. The idea of adapting to so many different environments is unthinkable." Professor Zixal nodded. "Indeed, it seems that the human ability to adapt is far greater than we imagined. This versatility explains their impressive performance in our tests." He turned back to the holographic display, highlighting a particular set of data. "What's even more intriguing is their problem-solving abilities. Humans consistently found unique and creative solutions to our scenarios, often in ways we hadn't anticipated." Sarah remembered the survival scenarios from the test. At the time, her solutions had seemed obvious to her. Using vines to make ropes, starting fires with friction, creating simple tools from stones and sticks. But now she realized that these skills, common knowledge on Earth, were apparently extraordinary in a galactic context. A rock-like Granitian student raised a crystalline hand. "Professor, does this mean humans are superior to other species?" The question hung in the air, causing a tense silence. Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. This was not at all what she had expected when she came to the Galactic Academy. Professor Zixal was quiet for a moment before responding. No, not superior. Different. Uniquely adapted. Every species has its strengths and weaknesses. What we're seeing with humans is not superiority, but an extraordinary level of adaptability and resilience. He looked around the room, his gaze serious. This discovery has significant implications. It suggests that Earth may be what we call a death world, a planet with environmental conditions so harsh that it drives the rapid evolution of its native species. The term death world sent a shiver through the classroom. Alien students edged away from the humans, a mix of fear and awe in their eyes. Sarah raised her hand, her voice shaking slightly. Professor, what exactly is a death world? Professor Zixal's expression softened. A death world, Sarah, is a planet that most galactic species would find uninhabitable. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous wildlife, natural disasters. These are all characteristics of a death world. And from what we're learning about Earth, it seems to tick all these boxes. The implications of this statement slowly sank in. Sarah had always thought of Earth as a beautiful, life-giving planet. The idea that it could be seen as a harsh, deadly world to other species was mind-boggling. Michael spoke up, his voice filled with a mix of pride and concern. So you're saying that because we come from a death world, we've developed all these abilities? Precisely, Professor Zixal nodded. Your species has evolved to survive in conditions that would be lethal to most other sentient beings in the galaxy. This makes you uniquely suited for tasks and environments that others would find impossible. The classroom erupted in excited chatter. Alien students were looking at their human classmates with new eyes, a mix of fear, respect, and curiosity in their gazes. As the class ended and students began to file out, Sarah overheard snippets of conversation. Can you imagine living on a planet where the weather itself could kill you? No wonder they're so tough. Their whole world is trying to eliminate them. Do you think they even realize how extraordinary they are? Sarah caught Michael's eye as they left the classroom. They didn't need to speak to know they were thinking the same thing. Their lives at the Galactic Academy, and perhaps humanity's place in the galaxy, had just changed forever. As they walked down the corridor, now given a wide berth by their alien classmates, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what other surprises their death world origins might reveal. The test had opened a door, and now the whole galaxy was watching to see what would come through it. The truth unveiled. Professor Zixal sat in his office, surrounded by holographic displays showing data about Earth and its inhabitants. For days, he had been researching everything he could find about this mysterious death world that had produced such extraordinary beings. As he sifted through information about Earth's extreme weather patterns, diverse ecosystems, and the long history of human survival against all odds, his excitement grew. This was more than just an interesting discovery. It was a revelation that could change the galaxy's understanding of life itself. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called out. The door slid open, revealing Sarah and Michael. The human students looked nervous but determined as they entered the office. "Ah, Sarah, Michael," Professor Zixal greeted them, his scales shimmering with excitement. "I'm glad you came. I have some interesting findings to share with you about your home planet." Sarah spoke up first, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "Professor, we've been hearing a lot of strange things since the test. Some students are even saying we're dangerous. We need to know the truth about Earth and why everyone's so interested in us now." Professor Zixal nodded solemnly. "Of course. You deserve to know." He gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. "Please, sit down. This might take a while to explain." As the humans settled into their seats, the professor activated a large holographic display of Earth. "Your planet," he began, "is what we in the galactic community classify as a Class 12 death world. It's one of the most extreme environments we've ever encountered that still produces sapient life." Michael leaned forward, his eyes wide. But why? What makes Earth so extreme? Professor Zixal's fingers danced over his control panel, and the hologram zoomed in on various parts of Earth. Let's start with the basics. Earth's gravity is much stronger than most inhabited planets. What you consider normal would crush many alien species. The hologram showed scenes of natural disasters: hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Your planet is incredibly geologically and meteorologically active. The level of natural disasters on Earth is unheard of on most worlds. Sarah watched in awe as the display cycled through images of Earth's diverse environments, from scorching deserts to frozen tundras, dense jungles to barren mountains. But Professor, she said, this is just normal for us. We've always lived with these conditions. Exactly, Professor Zixal exclaimed, his eyes shining. And that's what makes humans so extraordinary. You've not only survived in these conditions, but you've thrived. Your species has adapted to live in almost every environment your planet offers. The hologram shifted to show various animals: lions, sharks, venomous snakes, and more. Even your planet's wildlife is extreme by galactic standards. Many of Earth's animals would be classified as apex predators on other worlds. Michael shook his head in disbelief. So when we were taking those tests, you were demonstrating abilities honed by millennia of survival on one of the most challenging worlds we've ever encountered. The professor finished for him. Your strength, endurance, problem-solving skills, and adaptability are all products of your Deathworld origins. Sarah felt a mix of pride and unease. But Professor, why are some students saying we're dangerous? We don't want to harm anyone. Professor Zixal's expression softened. Of course you don't, but try to understand. To many species, your abilities seem almost superhuman. A being that can survive in environments that would kill most aliens, that can outthink and outfight many of our strongest species, is naturally going to cause some concern. He leaned back in his chair, his tone becoming more serious. But that's not the most significant implication of our discovery. The truth is, humans have potential that we're only beginning to understand. The hologram changed again, showing a timeline of human history. Your species has gone from simple tools to space exploration in a remarkably short time. Your rate of technological advancement is unprecedented. Michael and Sarah exchanged glances, beginning to grasp the magnitude of what the professor was saying. Moreover, Professor Zixal continued, your adaptability extends beyond the physical. Humans have a unique ability to learn, to change their behavior and beliefs, to innovate in ways that many other species struggle with. He stood up and began pacing, his excitement palpable. Don't you see? Humans are not just another species joining the galactic community. You represent a new paradigm of what life can achieve under the most challenging conditions. Sarah felt overwhelmed. So what does this mean for us? For humanity's place in the galaxy? Professor Zixal stopped pacing and looked at them intently. That, I'm afraid, is the great unknown. Some will see humans as valuable allies, capable of solving problems and surviving in conditions that no one else can. Others may view you as a potential threat, fearing what humans might become if given access to advanced galactic technology. Michael leaned forward, his voice filled with concern. Professor, is there a chance we might be excluded from the galactic community because of this? The professor shook his head firmly. No, that's not how we do things. But there will be debates, discussions about how to integrate humans into galactic society. Your presence here at the Academy is just the beginning. He moved back to his desk and sat down, his expression serious but kind. I'm telling you all this because you need to be prepared. The galaxy now knows about Earth and its Deathworld status. You and your fellow humans will be the subject of much curiosity, study, and yes, some fear. Sarah took a deep breath, trying to process everything. So what should we do, Professor? Professor Zixal's scales shimmered with a warm, encouraging glow. Continue to learn, to grow, to show the best of what humanity can be. You're ambassadors now. not just for Earth, but for the potential of life to thrive in even the harshest conditions. As Sarah and Michael left the professor's office, their minds were reeling. The truth about Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy had been unveiled, and it was more extraordinary than they could have ever imagined. They walked down the corridor in silence, both lost in thought. The Galactic Academy suddenly felt different, not just a place of learning, but the starting point of a journey that would reshape the future of humanity and the entire galactic community. As they passed a window, they paused to look out at the alien world that had become their temporary home. Somewhere out there, Earth spun on its axis, oblivious to its new status as a legendary death world. And its children, once thought of as ordinary, were about to show the galaxy what it meant to be human. Galactic implications. News travels fast, even across the vast emptiness of space. Within days of Professor Zixal's revelation about Earth's death world status, the entire galactic community was abuzz with excitement, fear, and speculation. On a space station orbiting a distant gas giant, the Galactic Council convened an emergency meeting. Representatives from hundreds of alien species gathered in a grand chamber, their varied forms a testament to the diversity of life in the universe. At the center of the chamber stood High Counselor Vexora, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering force field. Her voice, translated through advanced technology, echoed through the room. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, "we face an unprecedented situation. The discovery of Earth as a Class 12 death world and the remarkable abilities of its inhabitants has far-reaching implications for our entire civilization." Holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing images of Earth and its human inhabitants. Many counselors gasped or murmured in astonishment at the scenes of Earth's extreme environments and the humans thriving in them. "As you can see," Vexora continued, "humans possess physical and mental capabilities that surpass many of our strongest species. Their adaptability and resilience are extraordinary." A reptilian counselor named Zistakros, his scales bristling with agitation. "High Counselor, surely you see the danger. These humans come from a world that would kill most of us instantly. They're natural-born survivors, potential conquerors. We must contain them before they become a threat." Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the chamber, but they were met with equal sounds of dissent. An avian being named Creole fluttered her wings for attention. "Colleagues, please, let us not give in to fear. Think of the potential. Humans could help us colonize worlds we thought uninhabitable. Their problem-solving skills could revolutionize our technology. We should embrace them, not fear them." The debate raged on, with counselors arguing passionately for both sides. Some saw humans as valuable allies, while others viewed them as a potential existential threat to the galactic order. As the arguments grew more heated, High Counselor Vexora raised her energy form, commanding silence. "We must approach this situation with wisdom and caution. I propose a measured approach. We will continue to allow humans to integrate into our society, but under careful observation." She turned to address the entire council. "We will establish a special committee to study humans and their abilities. We'll also increase cultural exchange programs to better understand their society and values." The counselors nodded in agreement, seeing the wisdom in this balanced approach. Meanwhile, back at the Galactic Academy, Sarah and Michael found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of attention. News of Earth's death world status had spread throughout the student body, and the human students were now viewed with a mix of awe, curiosity, and trepidation. As Sarah walked into the Academy's grand library, she noticed how conversations stopped and heads turned to watch her. She tried to ignore the stares as she made her way to a quiet corner where Michael was already sitting, surrounded by datapads and holographic displays. "Any luck?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from him. Michael looked up, his eyes tired but excited. "It's incredible, Sarah. I've been researching how other species view Earth, and it's like reading about an alien planet. Look at this." He pushed a datapad towards her. On it was an article titled, Earth, the planet of death. Sarah read aloud, her voice barely above a whisper. Earth, home to the newly discovered human species, defies all conventional understanding of habitable worlds. With its crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, and constant geological instability, Earth should be a lifeless rock. Instead, it has produced one of the most adaptable and resilient species ever encountered. Sarah shook her head in disbelief. It's so strange to read about our home like this. I never thought of Earth as dangerous. I know, Michael agreed. But look at this part about our potential. He pulled up another holographic display, showing a graph of technological advancement across various species. The human line shot up at an angle far steeper than any other. According to these projections, Michael explained, his voice filled with excitement, humans could advance technologically faster than any known species in the galaxy. Some scientists are predicting we could catch up centuries of development in just a few decades if given access to galactic knowledge. Sarah felt a mix of pride and unease. No wonder some aliens are afraid of us. We must seem like a potential superhuman race to them. Their conversation was interrupted by a group of alien students who approached their table hesitantly. A Floatarian student drifted forward, its tentacles waving nervously. "Excuse us," it said, its translated voice tinged with curiosity. "We were wondering, could you tell us more about Earth? What's it like to live on a death world?" Sarah and Michael exchanged glances, then smiled welcomingly. "Of course," Sarah said. "Why don't you join us?" As the alien students gathered around, Sarah and Michael began to share stories about Earth. They talked about climbing mountains, swimming in oceans, and weathering storms. With each tale, the alien students' fear seemed to fade, replaced by fascination and respect. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Humans, once overlooked as an unremarkable species, were now the subject of intense interest. Scientists clamored to study Earth and its inhabitants. Diplomats debated the best ways to integrate humans into galactic society, and businesses began to consider the potential of human workers in extreme environments. But not everyone viewed the rise of humanity with optimism. In the shadows of distant worlds, some beings saw the Deathworlders as a threat to the established order. Secret meetings were held, plans were made, and a quiet resistance began to form against the integration of humans into the galactic community. As the day drew to a close, Sarah stood by a window in the academy, looking out at the alien sky. She thought about Earth, spinning far away, blissfully unaware of its new status in the galaxy. She thought about the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead for humanity. "We have so much to learn," she murmured to herself, "but also so much to teach." The revelation of Earth as a death world had shaken the foundations of the galactic community. But whether humanity's emergence would lead to a new era of cooperation or conflict remained to be seen. One thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The final challenge. Alarms blared throughout the Galactic Academy, their urgent wailing echoing off the gleaming walls. Students of all species rushed through the corridors, their faces etched with worry and fear. Something was terribly wrong. Sarah and Michael sprinted towards the main hall, dodging past panicked aliens of all shapes and sizes. As they burst through the doors, they saw Professor Zixel standing on a raised platform, his scales a dull gray color that indicated extreme distress. "Attention, everyone." The professor's voice boomed over the noise. "We face a crisis of unprecedented scale. A rogue pulsar has suddenly changed course and is heading straight for the Xindi system." Gasps and cries of dismay filled the hall. The Xindi system was home to 3 inhabited planets and billions of sentient beings. Professor Zixel continued, his voice grave. "The pulsar's intense radiation will sterilize the entire system unless we can deflect it. Our best scientists are working on a solution, but—" He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd until they locked onto Sarah and Michael. "We need help. We need humans." A hush fell over the hall as all eyes turned to the small group of human students. Sarah felt her heart racing. a mix of fear and determination coursing through her veins. The professor's next words confirmed her suspicions. Humans, with your unique problem-solving abilities and resilience to extreme conditions, you may be our best hope. We need volunteers to join our emergency response team. Without hesitation, Sarah stepped forward. "I'll go," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. Michael quickly joined her, along with the other human students. What followed was a whirlwind of activity. The humans were rushed to a high-tech briefing room, where they were joined by the galaxy's top scientists and engineers. Holographic displays showed the pulsar's trajectory and the doomed Cindy system. An elderly alien scientist named Dr. Corax, his tentacles waving with agitation, explained the situation. "We've devised a plan to create a massive gravity well to deflect the pulsar, but it requires setting up equipment on Cindy Prime, the system's most inhospitable planet." He pulled up an image of Cindy Prime, a hellish world of active volcanoes, toxic atmosphere, and crushing gravity. No known species can survive on the surface long enough to set up the equipment, except, perhaps, humans. Sarah studied the harsh landscape of Cindy Prime, recognizing elements that, while extreme, were not entirely unlike some of Earth's most dangerous environments. "It looks like a mix between an active volcano and the bottom of the ocean," she mused. "Challenging, but not impossible." The alien scientists looked at her in astonishment. Dr. Corax's eyes widened. You think you can survive there?" Michael nodded, a determined glint in his eye. "With the right equipment, yes. We'll need heat-resistant suits, oxygen supplies, and tools to work in high gravity. But we can do it." The next few hours were a blur of preparations. The humans were fitted with specially designed suits that could withstand Cindy Prime's harsh conditions. They underwent a crash course in operating the gravity well equipment, their Deathworld-honed minds quickly grasping the complex concepts. As they prepared to board the ship that would take them to Cindy Prime, Professor Zixal approached Sarah and Michael. "What you're about to do," he said solemnly, "will never be forgotten. You're not just saving lives. You're showing the galaxy what humans are truly capable of." The journey to the Cindy system was tense. Through the ship's view screen, Sarah could see the approaching pulsar, a pinpoint of blindingly intense light that spelled doom for billions. As they entered Cindy Prime's atmosphere, the ship shuddered violently. Sarah gripped her seat, her heart pounding. This was far worse than any turbulence she'd experienced on Earth. The landing was rough, the ship's advanced technology barely able to cope with the planet's extreme conditions. As the doors opened, Sarah got her first real look at Cindy Prime. The sky was a roiling mass of dark clouds, lit by the constant flicker of lightning. Rivers of lava flowed across the blackened landscape, and the air was thick with ash and toxic gases. The gravity pulled at Sarah, making every movement a struggle. But she didn't feel fear. Instead, a strange sense of familiarity washed over her. This wasn't so different from the volcanic regions she'd visited on Earth, just more so. "Let's do this," she said to Michael and the other humans, her voice firm with resolve. They stepped out onto the hostile surface of Cindy Prime, carrying the heavy equipment needed to set up the gravity well. Every step was a battle against the crushing gravity, every breath a careful measure of their limited oxygen supply. As they worked to assemble the complex machinery, Sarah marveled at how her body and mind adapted to the extreme conditions. The heat was intense, but no worse than Death Valley in summer. The toxic air was kept at bay by their suits, much like the gear used to explore deep-sea vents on Earth. Hours passed as they labored, the pulsar growing ever brighter in the sky. Finally, with trembling hands and exhausted bodies, they activated the gravity well device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, imperceptibly at first, the pinprick of light that was the pulsar began to move, curving away from its collision course with the Cindy system. Cheers erupted over their comms as the watching scientists confirmed that the plan had worked. The pulsar would miss the Cindy system, and billions of lives would be saved. As Sarah looked up at the ash-filled sky of Cindy Prime, she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Humans, once dismissed as inhabitants of an unremarkable world, had proven themselves on one of the harshest planets in the galaxy. The journey back to the Galactic Academy was filled with a mixture of exhaustion and elation. As their ship docked, Sarah and Michael were astonished to see the landing bay filled with aliens of all species, cheering and celebrating. Professor Zixal stepped forward, his scales shimmering with joy and pride. "You've done it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've saved the Xindi system and proved beyond any doubt the incredible potential of humanity." As Sarah looked out at the sea of alien faces, all beaming with gratitude and admiration, she realized that everything had changed. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. Their place in the galactic community was no longer in question. The Deathworlders had become the galaxy's heroes. A new era. 6 months had passed since the Xindi crisis, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The heroic actions of the human students from the Galactic Academy had sparked a revolution in how the rest of the universe viewed Earth and its inhabitants. Sarah stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling capital city of the Galactic Federation. The skyline was a breathtaking mix of alien architecture, with spires that seemed to defy gravity and buildings that shimmered with colors unknown on Earth. But what caught her eye were the new structures being built, robust, practical designs that bore the unmistakable mark of human influence. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a familiar voice said behind her. Sarah turned to see Michael, dressed in the formal robes of a Federation diplomat. She smiled at her friend, still amazed at how far they had come. "It's incredible. Sometimes I still can't believe we're really here." Michael nodded, his eyes reflecting the alien sun. Who would have thought that a simple classroom test would lead to all this? Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime. It was time for the ceremony. Sarah and Michael made their way to the Grand Assembly Hall, where representatives from every known sentient species had gathered. The hall was abuzz with excitement, tentacles waving, wings fluttering, and various alien appendages gesticulating as everyone waited for the historic moment. High Counselor Vexora's energy form pulsed with a warm glow as she called the assembly to order. "Esteemed colleagues," her translated voice rang out, "today marks a new chapter in galactic history. Today, we officially welcome Earth and humanity into the Galactic Federation as full members." Cheers and the alien equivalents of applause filled the hall. Sarah felt a lump in her throat as she watched the Earth flag, a new design that incorporated the classic blue and green with symbols representing humanity's new status as known Deathworlders, being raised alongside the flags of other member worlds. Professor Zixal, now serving as Earth's first ambassador to the Federation, stepped up to the podium. His scales shimmered with pride as he addressed the assembly. "Friends, colleagues, fellow sentients," he began, "the journey that brought us to this moment began with curiosity. A simple classroom test that revealed the extraordinary nature of human beings. What followed was a period of fear, wonder, and ultimately, understanding." The professor's gaze swept the hall, meeting the eyes, or eye equivalents, of various alien representatives. "Humans have shown us that strength born of adversity, adaptability in the face of challenges, and an unquenchable spirit of exploration are not things to be feared, but celebrated. The very traits that made Earth a death world have produced a species uniquely qualified to help us all face the unknown challenges of our vast universe." As the professor spoke, holographic displays around the hall showed scenes from the past 6 months. Human scientists working alongside alien researchers to solve complex problems. Human explorers charting worlds once thought uninhabitable, and human diplomats bridging cultural gaps with their unique perspective. "But this is not just a celebration of humanity," Zixal continued. "It is a recognition that diversity, true diversity, makes us all stronger. Every world, be it a paradise planet or a death world, has something to teach us. Every species, from the hardiest to the most delicate, has value. The professor's words struck a chord with the assembled representatives. Many nodded in agreement, their initial fear of Deathworlders now replaced with respect and appreciation. As the ceremony continued, Sarah reflected on the whirlwind of changes the past months had brought. Universities across the galaxy had created special programs to study Earth and human physiology. Deathworld survival techniques were now a hot topic, with humans serving as instructors for elite alien military and exploration units. But it wasn't all about humanity's strengths. The galaxy had much to offer Earth as well. Advanced medical techniques were helping to cure diseases that had plagued humanity for millennia. Alien terraforming technology was being adapted to help restore Earth's damaged ecosystems, and the knowledge of countless alien cultures was enriching human art, philosophy, and science in ways no one could have imagined. As the ceremony drew to a close, High Counselor Vexora made one final announcement. In recognition of the unique perspective that Deathworld species bring to our community, we are establishing a new division within the Galactic Federation. The Deathworld Integration and Knowledge Exchange, or DIK, will be led by those who have shown us the true potential of life forged in adversity. To Sarah's shock, the High Counselor called her and Michael forward. Sarah Chen and Michael Okonkwo, who proved the potential of humanity in that first classroom test and in the crucible of the Xindi crisis, will serve as humanity's first representatives to DIK. As Sarah and Michael stepped up to accept their new roles, the hall erupted in cheers. Aliens who had once feared the very idea of Deathworlders now celebrated the strength and resilience they'd brought to the galactic community. Later, as the formal ceremonies gave way to a more relaxed celebration, Sarah found a quiet moment to slip away to a viewpoint overlooking the city. As she gazed up at the star-filled sky, she thought about Earth, the death world that had shaped humanity and given them the strength to face a universe full of wonders and challenges. Michael joined her, handing her a drink of shimmering alien liquid. "To new beginnings," he said, raising his glass. Sarah smiled and clinked her glass against his. "To new beginnings," she agreed, "and to the classroom test that changed everything." As they looked out at the galactic capital, now as much humanity's home as any other species, Sarah felt a sense of excitement for the future. The universe was vast and full of unknowns, but humanity was ready to face whatever came next. The era of the Deathworlders had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again.